G'day everyone, it's Mark the Happy Farmer. It's 16th of May 2026. I live in northeast Victoria and today it's time to take the cover off our apple trees. We keep our trees covered with this fine insect mesh. It keeps the fruit fly off, codling moth and any other issues, insect type issues. It also keeps the birds away. It protects from sunburn, hail damage. The only problem is it does catch in the wind a little bit. If you have a look, what we've done is we've used an old gazebo to cover our fruit trees. It was just a cheap 3 metre by 3 metre shade type gazebo from BCF or Anaconda. The actual cover that came with it, we used the first year and it fell to pieces within about 6 months in the sun. But this insect netting that we get from the local nursery, plant nursery, lasts years and years, and we just cable tie it to the frame of the gazebo. You can probably hear the bees in the background. This is a loquat tree and it is in full flower at the moment. And it is also covered in bees. It's a beautiful day here in northeast Victoria. This is a different tree that we've just removed the cover from. And as you can see, it's absolutely loaded up with apples. But not all of our trees actually performed that well this year. Some of them didn't have any fruit at all, or only a couple of bits and pieces.
Living a modern lifestyle, it's impossible to be completely self-sufficient, but by eating what we can grow, as well as eating seasonally and preserving, we achieve a high level of self-sufficiency and save enough money that we can afford to treat ourselves occasionally. It's simple to achieve a high level of self-sufficiency at low cost with just a few basic tips and tricks.
You can see some test apples in there where I tested to make sure it was delicious, and some really damaged fruit that's going to the pet wallabies today, and some other damaged fruit that we'll keep and feed to the animals over the next couple of weeks. All the good apples are going directly into the refrigerator. I think we've got that set on about 4 degrees, and these apples should last us several months. We have a really large orchard on our farm in northeast Victoria. In there we've got about 5 different varieties of apple trees. You may think it's a bit weird, and why would we want so many apples? The answer is that each type of apple kind of has a little bit of a different use, but more importantly they tend to ripen a few weeks to a month apart, and therefore it extends the season over which you can enjoy your apples. If you're wondering, my favourite type of apple is the Pink Lady. I like it because it's nice and tart, it's really crisp, and it stores well. I was talking before about having different types of apples in the orchard and how they ripen at different stages, allowing you to extend your apple eating season. So what we have here are known as cider apples. These are the first to be ready to eat at my property in northeast Victoria. They are not a very crisp, tart apple at all. They tend to be soft, they're very juicy, they tend to be really large. These are some of the biggest apples that we grow. Absolutely prolific producer, but not my favourite eating apple. However, my wife really likes these for eating. These are Golden Delicious, and they are absolutely fantastic. Beautiful, delicious apples. They come on a little later in the season than the cider apples. They tend to go powdery when they get too ripe, so you really do have to pick them when they're nice and crisp, and eat them fairly quick because they don't last too long in storage. Behind them we've got some, I think they're a Granny Smith or a Jonathan variant. Again, they're a really crisp apple and they tend to do better in storage and last longer, but they are also later in the season. So these are one of the latest apples that we pick, and the absolute last one in the season that we pick here is the Pink Lady, which is a really tart, crisp, my favourite apple. Going back to these pears, what we found is if you allow them to fully ripen on the tree, the birds get most of them, and we probably get about 200 kilos plus of pears off the one tree. So 200 kilos of pears all ripe at the one time is really hard to deal with. Whereas if we pick them when they're full size but fairly green and we store them in the refrigerator, we can take them out and ripen 10 or 12 in a bowl at a time, and they're absolutely beautiful, delicious to eat, and we get to eat them for 3 or 4 months. So here's a bowl of those pears that are just finishing ripening up for a couple of days on the bench after being in the refrigerator for months. We've got a feijoa here, and these are bunya nut, actually a native nut. You roast these up, delicious. I believe you can also grind them up and make flour and damper and that type of thing. We've just roasted them up and eaten them that way. Don't get heaps of those. But yes, just showing you that's how we extend our pear season for several months, is by keeping them in the refrigerator under high humidity and taking a few out at a time to ripen. It's quite similar to what we do with our avocados. The avocados never ripen on the tree, so you have to pick them when they're hard and put them in the refrigerator, take them out, leave them on the bench for a few days to ripen them. The best we've found is to place a banana in the bowl with the avocados, because that generates ethylene gas, which helps to ripen them. Here's a different shot of our orchard. It's our apricot tree, green apples, cider apples, Pink Lady apples, Golden Delicious apples, loquat, feijoa, olive, native Davidson's plum, a peach up the back there. This plant's guava, blueberries, Jonathan apples, cherries, plumcot, which is a plum and an apricot hybrid, mulberries, apples. Ooh, I cannot remember what this is. The fruit is red and it has big seeds inside it. And up the back there, we've got an avocado tree. And outside in what we call our food forest, there's heaps more fruit trees. Those are mostly just to share with the native animals, but a bit of backup for us as well, or to feed to our pets and livestock. I can't forget we've got a loquat there, another avocado behind it, a cherry, 2 kiwis, 2 pears, a plum, almonds, and back through there we have a citrus grove with a few types of orange, mandarin, lemon, lime. As I say, we're pretty self-sufficient, and we really do try to be sustainable here on the farm. So most of the power comes from solar, which includes pumping the water for the garden, and all the water comes from our dams and a well on site. When we remove the cover from the tree, we have to get to work straight away and pick all the apples off the tree. It only takes a day or two of being uncovered before the local parrots figure out that the apples are ready and they are all eaten. We do tend to leave any smaller or underripe fruit on the tree, or some damaged fruit. That's to share with the native birds and other animals, so they're welcome. You know, we try and share our property with the native animals, and part of that is leaving a little bit of what we grow for them to eat to help them through the tougher times. My top tips for long-term apple storage are store the best quality apples possible. Any with any marks on them, take them out and cook with them straight away. There's one with a bit of a mark on it that I might take out if it can't rub off. Nice clean apples, no leaves at all. Nice short stem, but do leave a stem on the apple. Don't break it off down in there. Humidity should be set to fairly high, though you should check the apples about once per month. I usually have a piece of paper towel and I wipe any excess humidity from the container that they're in. And I check the apples over to make sure that there are none that are rotten or anything like that, because as the old saying goes, one bad apple will spoil the whole bunch. I hope these tips help you to store your apples for longer. I think optimally apples should really only be stored for about 3 months, and 4 degrees Celsius seems to be a fairly good temperature. If you get lower than that, you can freeze some of the water in the apples, and that makes them mushy and they don't last as long. Technically, it shouldn't freeze unless the fridge gets down to 0, but when you have it set as low as 2 degrees, a little bit of variation in the thermostat can lead to some spoiled apples. We have 3 large refrigerators, mostly to store our homegrown produce. So this fridge is mostly used to store animal food and animal medication. This one's a little bit too open for apples. It should be fairly closed to keep the humidity fairly high, but as you can see, we've also got some stored in a box with a lid on it there, so completely sealed. And occasionally we'll open it up, check for any apples that are going bad, and wipe this humidity off, maybe about once a month. Up the back you can see I have some pears stored as well. I've done lots of experiments with how to store apples the best. Because I produce so many apples, you've got to get good at it. These containers I experimented by drilling small holes so that it allows some of the humidity to escape. What you find with storing fruit in the refrigerator is that it's a really dry environment and it can tend to shrivel the fruit before it has a chance to ripen fully, or after only a few weeks in storage. So having a higher humidity really does seem to help, but you do have to keep an eye on it to make sure that no mold or other problems develop. If you have any questions about insect control, fungus, other diseases, and how we deal with them here on our farm in northeast Victoria, please feel free to ask in the comments. Maybe I can make another video about it, or I'll just tell you what works for me. Won't work for everyone everywhere, but I've got a lot of simple home remedies that I'm happy to share. You can see that really significant condensation has built up inside this container of pears, so it's time to open it up, dry that down with a piece of paper towel, and they can go back in the fridge. There are no holes in the lid here, so it is completely sealed. As I showed you before, this one has some tiny little holes that I've drilled in the lid to let some of the moisture escape. This is yet another one of our refrigerators. And as you can see, it is absolutely chock-a-block with pears. And they have ripened in the refrigerator. I think they've been in there for about a month and a half. So they'd probably be absolutely delicious to eat. We need to use them soon. As you can see, they're shriveling up a little bit because of the low humidity in the refrigerator. If you're wondering why on earth we need so many pairs for ourselves and our animals, it's because I breed a range of endangered native marsupials, possums, gliders, bandicoots, betongs, wallabies, and this fruit helps me to do it on the cheap. It reduces the cost of food considerably. In the top here, we have some pet meat for the animals, and this box I think is full of pears that we've cut up, so ready to go, just defrost for longer term storage. I've just remembered that these pears that we've cut up and frozen are actually nashi pears. I really don't like eating them at all. I think they're one of the first things that's ready. They're ready to go before the Packham pears, I think, are the other ones. They're the green ones. So that's why these nashis got cut up and put in the freezer. If you're thinking to yourself, well, Mark, you've got so many freezers, how on earth can that be sustained? The answer is solar power. We have 20 kilowatts of solar panels on our roof just there, a bit hard for you to see. So we also have 24 kilowatt hours of battery storage. So we can run 24/7 completely off grid, though we are still connected to the grid just in case we have a week of really bad weather. Or we need extra for our electric car. We've got an EV. Outside in our machinery shed, running on all that solar power, we also have 2 large freezers. And can you take a guess at what we've got in here? If you guessed fruit, you're spot on. We've got pears, apples, figs, loquats, or some people call them loquats, and probably some apricots stored in there. And if you happen to notice, we also have lots of meat. This is venison mince. I was lucky enough to catch a wild one in my back paddock, and we've got a few months worth of meat. Perfectly sustainable, self-sufficient, organic, wild harvest meat that saves me a fortune and is good for the environment. I don't know if you can see or not, but hiding in there under the fig tree is a guinea pig. I'll try and zoom in on him. You can just see a little bit of his fur there. So we have heaps of free-roaming guinea pigs in our orchard, and their job is to mow the lawn and clean up any fallen fruit to help prevent fungal problems, fruit fly, other types of issues, and they do a great job of that. We do, however, have to protect the trunk of the fruit trees because they will ring bark them. Depends on the type of tree. They don't seem to have too many problems with this fig tree, and hiding under there gives them protection from birds of prey and other predators. This is a fallen golden delicious apple that the guinea pigs have, as you can see, been gnawing on, and they do a good job of keeping the grass down in the orchard and cleaning up this fallen fruit to help prevent insects and diseases. This is one of the mulberry trees in our food forest, and we've had a second lot of mulberries this year. The spring lot weren't very good because we had a very dry spring. But this is an autumn lot of mulberries, which we don't normally get, and they are absolutely fantastic this year. But this tree, being planted in our food forest down the paddock, is really just for the animals to eat. It's not something we really planted for ourselves, but I'll certainly have a snack while I'm down here walking past today, because I love mulberries. They're irresistible. Have a look at that. Sustainable, self-sufficient, the happy farmer. Very, very happy. I love these mulberries. They do stain a little bit. Delicious. Look at those beautiful mulberries. Can't help myself but to eat a few of those. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for watching today. If you like my videos and content in general, it always helps if you share them, make a comment, and even better, subscribe to my channel. This has been another video by Mark the Happy Farmer. Cheers!